Oh, she's worse. His is technical like this.
Archery, yeah.
She was just bad.
Be able to keep going over and on. But if not, we'll just defer until spring.
Oh, yeah, she works for something.
Yeah, we wanted to
Well,
get through.
well, she just bought. She bought.
Form on both sides of the road, yeah. The greenhouse wants to go through before greenhouse season, so they're kind of like the same.
A new boss came in, sold.
That's why we're because they're maybe 2-inch galvanized in some places. Yeah. That's our long-term goal. It might take 10 or 12 years to do, maybe another store. Yeah, it's a long-term goal.
Too old to do that. It's like, oh my God.
The good thing is so that far end of the system is, when we do repairs, they have to like, some of the plastic mesh, the irrigation pipe.
It's harder when it's like,
Free engineering services through town. So we're working on creating some moves. Yeah. Really? A second storage tank. Good, how are you doing? So, yeah, it's,
So it was on for a while. So it was fun. But we're trying to do as much as
and they're spread out. Blairsville, Beaverly, way over there.
Yeah, so it's definitely a conversation.
Yeah, the osmosis of that, you email me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
That's great. Unless they subdivide some of those files, which is not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I have a comb inside. I have a new green. And I have cataract. They put a lens in, but it's still very, it's still blurry and very irritating. Yeah. I probably should have the big black glasses on, but.
Did, yeah. Yeah, I really did. Yeah. Yeah, they do. It's called Wild Women in Leadership Development. Well, they said I'm their lunch hour, so I gotta go back. I couldn't, my schedule's been so busy. I was like, the last one, that would be yesterday, it was 3 o'clock. And then Friday,
I was worried about the pressure being back then, because that's how the pressure was blurred. Not blurry. So I thought my pressure was way back up. And then chart, I saw that. I thought that's meeting was nauseous. You know, I'm very patient.
everybody at the end of the.
So like I thought she was gonna take the thing off. But my great vision updated. No pressure. Hi, Mark. Tom, how you doing? Rick, how are you? So there used to actually something like
And they need their professor
Yeah, I
Huh? It'll be longer than 2 minutes. I only need 2
I called her last night to tell her. She wanted to well, I made I decorated my tree too. I thought you
Pleasure seeing you. Oh, where is it?
Oh, yeah. Trust
So, well,
This is what Cumberland Center, no, Cumberland Center Youth Snipe. What's interesting is the number of kids in our career who is not
going up.
I can't figure out. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there,
Art
people will be
said,
calling
Art
it.
said in the presentation, Austin made as far as population.
Matt, Tanya will be calling it.
Do we know what that is? Is it always the same time?
I know, it's hard.
Students.
Morning, who do we have?
Morning, Colin.
Morning. Hey, good morning, everyone. We ask you to please rise for the opening prayer and the pledge of allegiance before we convene our public meeting. Dear gracious and loving God, we thank you for this day and the season of Advent and Hanukkah. We reflect on this time of year, full of love and giving, and praise you for your faithfulness. We know many have experienced loss and sadness over the year, and we pray that you'll comfort those and provide your peace to them. Father, we pray during the season of peace, for peace throughout our turbulent world. May we strive to live what you have instructed us. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And the glory of God shall be revealed, and all flesh shall be together. May we pray these words so we can live in peace. As we draw near to the closing of another year, let us reflect on our faults and make every effort to correct them. Let us praise you for our strengths and victories and have a humble attitude in those successes. Yesterday we recognized and celebrated the birthday of the National Guard. It's the oldest military organization in America, established in 1636 in Massachusetts. These everyday Americans have been called for military operations throughout the world. And we thank you for these men and women that serve our country, our communities, and locally. And we pray for their protection and safety. And we pray for our guidance, your guidance over our meeting this morning. Lead us to make decisions in accordance with your will. And these things we humbly request in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. At this time, we'll convene our Commissioners' public meeting, and we'll ask for approval of the meeting.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. 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 So carried. Do we have any public comments on agenda item only at this time? Yes.
Clarification, just looking at the agenda, are you gonna do anything on next year's budget today? I don't see it.
Item 8.12.
8.12, it's on there.
Yes.
Where's it at?
We'll have discussion about it.
Okay,
I'm actually going to make a motion to table
8.12, Jack is on
okay, all right, thank you.
it. Okay? Anybody else?
It is on the agenda today, the budget, so I will speak about it. I actually want to talk about two items on the agenda. First, your discussion on the reassessment. I understand Brooke has a presentation today. I just want to recall 7.5 years ago with my hat as the Director of Assessment that I came, Scott, you were not in on the board then, but to certainly Commissioner Marabito and Musare, I made the recommendation to do a full-blown reassessment of visiting every house at a $3.5 million price tag. Now, my understanding is that there is a proposal that you're going to discuss. It is a big endeavor as a Board of Commissioners for Mark in the back, something you'll have to deal with after the first of the year, after the inauguration. But it's something to consider that I want to give an example of why we need it. So I had a appraisal done on my house within the last 2 weeks. Theoretically, I could take that appraisal, appeal my assessment, and just simply by the common level ratio have my taxes reduced. I, as a passionate county employee, will not do that, but it's just something that, as an example of where we're at today. Back in the day when Brooke and I made that presentation, I believe the common level ratio was hovering about 75 at the time. Now we're talking down into 50%, 40%. That tax burden, although your budget doesn't have a tax increase in it, the school districts are forced. The city of Waynesford obviously was here last week to discuss those items. It is a big endeavor. It's a big project that you have to be on top of. Now you have to be certified as a county commissioner to even look at the appeals and to sit as the Board of Assessment. So I support it. I know it's not a popular thing, but it has to be done. It certainly has to be done. On your way out, Commissioner Marabito and Musare, one of the biggest decisions probably in your term. It's going to affect every resident that's a homeowner in this county. It includes commercial. So something that I fully support, I fully understand, and I know Commissioner Marabito's mentioned this many times. It's about education. We're trying to bring those values up today to 2023, 2024, and this is going to take 1.5 years to go through the process. But to bring those levels up today so where you can establish that millage rate for tax purposes to a level that's 2023, not 1996. So I support it. As a former Director of Assessment, ran the tax offices for 25+ years. The delinquencies as a result of school district taxes where they're at today, I know Brooke in that capacity as the Director of Tax Claim would certainly not. I hope that it never ends. It just keeps growing and growing. And the affordability of the taxes, just to lower that base year by year with the common level ratio going down, the school districts have to make that adjustment. Second item is the budget. I understand you're going to pull it today, but my comments about the budget today are more of the process, of the structure. So as a department head, as an elected official, I stand here today not knowing what has been approved and what isn't. I know that there was a proposed budget that was submitted. I think I was one of 2 members in the audience that, excuse me, my mouth is really, my wife's getting over a cold. I'm hoping I'm not getting. So I was in attendance on the night of the hearing, received a copy of the budget. I sent out messages that there was flaws in my own budget, and I'm speaking on my own budget, my own process. Some of those items I do not have an opportunity to discuss with the board at all. No discussion, but were cut from the proposed budget. Specifically 2 items. Reached out through email. Response I got back was I was unaware that anything was cut. Today I don't know if that is. So understanding the process that we have to put our budget in for consideration by the end of July. September 13th, we had a budget hearing, as all department heads and elected officials do. I requested an hour. This is my 27th budget. First time I've ever requested extended time, because I knew that I had some items on the agenda that were going to be discussed and needed to be discussed. Two of the commissioners were present. It lasted 20 minutes. One question about my budget. The rest of the time we spent talking about tax software, about my old offices, and the need and the dire need for security because of PFAs, which is in my office also. Fast forward to the budget hearing, or I'm sorry, for the proposed budget that was on display. I went through, my salary for staff in the Brazanteri's office was cut. We all know that the budget has a 3.5% increase for salary employee wages. There's no way that I'm not cutting staff. So those questions, I asked those type of questions. My supply budget was cut. We're moving to a new file system next year that doubles the cost of keeping a record for the courts. I compensated for that. I put in, but it was cut. So there has to be a better process. Today, I'm expecting it to be on the agenda. I can accept decisions. What I cannot accept is decisions without discussions. I invited all three of you to come down and look at the dire need that I have for file space for court records. I'm out of room. I have no room. No discussion concerning that line item.
Tom.
Can I finish my public
I just
comment,
want to
Scott?
state to you that I did come over and went.
Please don't imply, Commissioner, you came over to discuss budget. You came over, I asked if you had a minute to go downstairs. It was a nostalgic look for you to go into the basement. But we did not have, keeping with my comments, we did not have a discussion on all year and to discuss that line item in the budget. And there certainly is another item that you know that I've been talking about since January. We've had a few comments about it, but no discussion. My comments are about the process. Okay? I expected it to be on the agenda and I'm accepting that. But I need solutions. I need to know that the cuts aren't made simply to have a no tax increase and make it. I can come up with alternative solutions, but that's part of the discussion. Okay? So those are my comments on the budget process. And it starts with the elected officials and the department heads. That we do our work, we just don't throw numbers in there. And Scott, I know you said that you did not come over to my office to talk about budget that day. I hope you're not implying that.
Not.
Okay, but I mentioned it, where were we at with the budget? Do you have a minute to go downstairs? The director of administration, I called him. He's seen the issues that we had. It's not going away. I still need room. So, and there's a solution for that was in the budget. So I reached out to the director of administration asking what the status of certain items were. His response back to me was, I'm not aware of anything that was cut. But it certainly isn't in the budget unless it's hidden really well. It's not there. So it's about the structure of the budget process and the discussion and major ticket items, which I haven't done. I've been bottom line. I think that you all would agree with that. Been bottom line, cut staff based on technology that has allowed me to do that. And then these items get looked over without discussion. So those are my comments.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. Mr. Heap, if you could come back up, just so, come on. So, look, you raised some interesting points here, which is that, and this is one of the things I think the new commissioners need to look at when they come in. How do we do the budget process? There's a process that we've followed that has sort of, I guess, come down traditionally, or should I say by custom, which is that we meet with the department heads and the elected officials. But obviously what you're telling us is that the process is not necessarily as productive as it could be. One of the things that I had, when I was in the state legislature, we held budget hearings with the public. The department head came before the elected officials and presented their case as to why they needed the money. And I toyed with the idea when I came here 8 years ago, and it's something that I think the new commissioners ought to think about, is whether to have public hearings, public budget hearings that are open to the public to come for a couple reasons. First of all, the public needs to know how expensive it is to run government. Some people may not like that idea, but I'll tell you what, an informed electorate is the best way to solving some of the problems. The simple thing that Mr. Heap is talking about, which is storage for files that have to be stored. But we can leave that to the new board. So just so you know, I don't think anybody intentionally tried to disregard your concern, but it doesn't matter at a certain point whether it was intentional or unintentional. If it happened and you felt that it happened, that's the important thing that we need to try to correct. You know, you and Commissioner Metzger share something in common, which is that you both worked as county employees for a long time, and then you both became elected officials. So you have a certain perspective on things over time, which I think is helpful to us as a community in terms of trying to move forward. So I certainly will take the comments you're making in the spirit they're intended, which is what I think you're saying is, listen, we need to find a better way to get the problems that we face as elected officials addressed, and as department heads. And again, as I said, Commissioner Massera and I won't be here, but one thought is for the new board when they come in to have a conversation and to have it with themselves and also with the other elected officials as to what's the best way to getting it done.
And I think in response to your comments, Commissioner, it's not the discussion of the line item that I put in, and it's just to touch on it just a little, criminal records in our file room, there's a criminal record from 1971 to today. There's no room in the basement. There's no room. Solution to that is get them scanned in. That comes with a project. That project to get everything scanned in electronically to be available to the public. And that's my job, the keeper of those records, as an elected official, is $250,000. That's a big price tag, okay? So how do I handle that? I worked hard to come in and get 7 different proposals, okay, and put it in the budget at the end of July to have no discussion on. So whether 25% could be handled next year, 25% after that, that's discussion. That's negotiation, that's discussion, and those decisions should be made based off those discussions. And it wasn't. It just wasn't even considered.
So, Mr. Heap, Mr. Metzger is going to make a motion today to table the vote on the budget till next week. We have time in 2 weeks, I'm sorry, the 28th. We have time between now and then to vet that issue, and if we need to do it in the way you're recommending over 4 years paying for it, we can look at that. So we can deal with that problem. We are glad you brought it to our attention today because it shouldn't go unnoticed. We have a statutory obligation to keep the records. It isn't something we do just because we want to keep them around. So we will deal with that. And what I would suggest is you ask Mary Rose upstairs to get a meeting scheduled with us so we can discuss that.
Well, certainly I will follow that recommendation, Commissioner, but it's keep in mind my comments about the process and the structure, understanding that decisions have to be made. But uninformed decisions is not acceptable to me. I don't do it in my own work every day. And just to simply cut, well, there's a big price tag that can be cut without discussion.
No.
And nobody here can say that it was discussed.
Yeah. No, you're probably right, and so we will fix it. And we can still move ahead and with the other question you had, the new board, of figuring out to make sure that we have a budget process that's everything.
And Tom, just all due respect, I come over because I have a concern, not for an aesthetic look. I have a general concern of your office. That's why I was there. And I'm glad you took me into the basement. I'm glad you took me on a tour of the shortage of filing. Because I did share that when I came back.
Well, I'm glad you took me up on the invitation that I sent to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and you've seen, you know.
I know.
The dire need.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to piggyback on some of Tom's comments because Jack McKernan, Williamsport, on the reassessment. I think it's nice that the commissioners ask the public, but I think the data tells you guys, that it's time. And I know 5 years ago, I believe it was time because when I was leaving office, we had purchased equipment from Tyler Technologies, I think, to get the process started, to get the equipment in, because we knew it had to come, that it would be coming soon. And I went back and looked at the notes that I have and the documents that I have, and I think the common level ratio and all the other ratio studies that you can look at will tell you whether it's time or not to do it. And my concern is with 2 new commissioners coming in, we don't want to put them into having to learn, to get up to speed. I think you guys probably know, and you should probably do the best that you can to get the ball rolling so that this gets accomplished, because it'll take 2 to 3 years to get the reassessment completed. So as a taxpayer, I do believe that it's time that this be done. And as time goes on, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was around $55 per parcel to have the reassessment done. I can only imagine that it's probably $75, $85, $100 a parcel. So it's just going to get more expensive if we keep waiting to do that. In the end, I do think, the community as a whole will be better off with the reassessment, because I don't think the last reassessment might have been in 1990 or
2004, you got it.
2000.
It was a partial reassessment. The true
They started it, but they had to stop it.
a full
That was
reassessment.
after.
Yeah.
That was because of the bigger waters.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
during my first term.
1988 is the last time we had a real
Yeah,
complete.
okay,
That's not correct.
okay.
That's what I was told.
2004, we had a full-blown reassessment.
Yep.
2012 was when we were starting up to have another reassessment, and that's the one that was suspended because of the Biggest Water Act. So the last full-blown reassessment was 2004.
2000.
Yes.
Okay, so 20 years ago. Okay, so that was the comments I wanted to make on the reassessment. All right, just quickly on the budget. First of all, I do want to compliment a new director, Anderson, is that? Okay, I think that budget book that you have put together, man, that is a hell of a lot easier to read than what we had to look at. So I compliments to whoever worked on doing that. A couple of things, I could be wrong, but I looked the best that I could. And I don't see in the budget any, on the revenue side, I don't see any Act 13 impact fees coming in next year.
It was added.
We added.
Commissioner,
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was that.
obviously that was the draft budget, so there was a few
Okay.
items as we were.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna read them off. You might have already fixed this.
Well, we should get that on the website. We should get the new version on the website, so people, even before we vote on it, so that between now and the 28th, people can, so a question like that will be answered, they'll look and they'll see it.
The other thing in the Act 13 area was I didn't see any kind of, and assuming that it showed a beginning balance of about $24 million, I didn't see any kind of interest calculation in there, which I think would be $720,000.
Yeah, I think we found about 20 some items that were missing from the original proposal.
All right, then the, on the revenue side, on the coroner, there were no fees for 2024, but there had been an average of $80,000 a year the last 2 years. On the expense side, I don't know, looking at, I'm just gonna give you my comments, but in the commissioner's office, it looked like there was the cell phone area looked high if you divide it by the number of people that are in the office. Professional dues weren't there, and I didn't know if maybe you dropped out of NACO, or I would assume you didn't drop out of CCAP, but it looked like that was $35,000 short from 2022. On page, well, let's see, and I did see someplace, public affairs, it might have been in the commissioner's side, and if you get down the road of doing the reassessment, I would imagine you're gonna need to have somebody in public affairs to run that part of things. So there was $30,000 there. I wasn't too sure about what that was for. On the insurance, and I guess this was in the commissioner's office on page 51 of the budget book. It seems like the cost of the insurance seems extremely high. It worked out to be $28,500 per person for 5 people, and the admin fee was almost $330 per person per year in the commissioner's office, which seemed high. And I was wondering do county employees contribute a percentage towards either premium or deductible?
Yes. Both.
Okay. You know, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the reason that might have been high is that we're actually down a person in the commissioner's office. And I'm wondering if the per
looked like-
capita rate reflected.
It looked like there were six people supposed to be in the office, but there might be only 5 that were taking insurance.
Yep.
At least from what I saw in the.
I have that.
Yeah.
Tax collector, it shows 13 additional people on page 18 of the schedule of employees, and then I'm assuming maybe that has something to do with the tax reassessment on page 67. Mail services on page 90, there was, the medical, there's only, I'm not sure if there's 1 person or 2 people in that department. Page 18 shows 2 people, but for some reason I think there's only 1 person there. And the medical was showing $24,000 for the year. Also, you might want to look at page 90, there was no wages included for employees for next year in that area. In the budget book, is there a place where there's the outside agencies? I couldn't find anything. I didn't know, and I didn't quite know where to look for the funding of the library, airport, that kind of stuff. Is it actually in the document?
Yeah, it's in the budget.
Okay.
What
I mean,
page
that-
is it on?
I
Do
couldn't
you know,
quite-
Eric?
I couldn't quite figure out where that was at.
Anything that's spent has to be in the budget, right?
Yeah,
So-
no, I'm sure.
No, I know, you know that, Commissioner, yeah, that anything that is spent should be listed in the budget, right? That's how you have
With the-
transparency with the
With
public
the
about where
new
the money.
format, is there, is
It's
the
there.
name change or something, or?
No, name didn't change. And it might be, this was the draft budget, so one of the things was to try to make corrections and so forth. And
Okay.
in fairness to the budget office, staff is new, they're working extremely hard to come up to speed. We appreciate, though, the time you put into this.
Okay.
And speaking of time, doesn't he only have 3 minutes? I mean, a lot of people waiting to speak.
He has some very legit concerns, and we're gonna hear, if I have to let somebody talk extra, I will. So please let him
appreciate that.
finish.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Okay,
but
and you'll have an opportunity to speak, and if you,
I'm just saying there
Yes.
are many people and he's consuming a lot
Okay.
of time.
The only
Let
other
him
point
finish.
I would make is, I think under the Act 13, it showed a $5 million outflow for capital expenditures. So to me, that would mean there's no other Act 13 money on deck to be paid next year. Because if there was, I would think it should be in there someplace, or it should show up someplace.
That's one of the
It
things we're
wasn't-
revisiting in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
If you recall, in the past, we would go through and we would say, we're gonna pay for this operating expense with Act 13.
Okay.
We're looking at that in the next 2 weeks.
I think you meant from the revenue side, correct? Of not having it in for the revenue side.
great,
Okay.
you mentioned that initially, we started
Okay.
speaking.
Okay, all right, thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you, we appreciate your detail.
Michelle, would you like to make some comments?
Yeah, I thought that.
Please come up to the podium.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm getting there.
Take your time.
I guess it's just a procedural.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Michelle Green, Williamsport.
Thank you.
And I guess this is just a procedural question. The question is, when there are items,
Yes.
why are those speakers not limited to 3 minutes? I understand the details that are being presented are important, but I don't think this is the appropriate forum for them to be discussed in a very lengthy manner.
There's-
It's just my comment.
Okay, there's been times when I've allowed a person to speak well over 3 minutes.
Yes, I understand
And
that.
I want everybody to
And it's
have the
within your
opportunity.
discretion, and I appreciate that very
Yes.
much.
Yes.
Just wanted to put
So
my
you-
point of view forward.
Okay, if you like to take longer than 3 minutes, we want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I don't want to hold everybody up.
That's no,
Thank you.
that's not an issue. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to wish everybody in here a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same to
Thank
you.
you.
And the best of luck to you and Rick over here on, he's seeing some new faces after 8 years with it. And
John, could you identify yourself, please?
John Sharman, Lycoming County.
Thank you.
I know the tax assessment was put on the sidelines in 2012. However, what's going to happen when you go through with the tax reassessment, which has to be done with it, the county's going to be able to bring in more money along with the reassessment, and the school districts are going to benefit. But what is being forgotten through the COVID situation, the majority of property owners in Lycoming County are elderly. And they're having a hard time of it now with everything. So maybe in 2 to 3 years, you're gonna put a bind on elderly people with it. Just fact, because the school board's gonna need more, the county's gonna need more. So that's the downside of the reassessment, because I doubt very many properties are gonna be reassessed downwards after 12 years. With the property reassessment, do the industrial properties also get a reassessment, or is this just a property reassessment?
Everything.
Okay. I'm a little bit rushed for time today, but like I said, wish everybody Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Rick, and since Jack McCurran is here, they did something that changed government over about 1920, or 2020, here with everything. I pushed real hard for getting the meetings live streamed. Rick backed me, and when it come to vote in August of 2020, Rick and Jack both voted in favor of it, which has added a lot of transparency to county government. And thank you, Jack, and thank you, Rick. Have a good day.
And just to clarify, just because we think that everybody's assessed value is going to go up, right? That's not, it may be the case, but that doesn't mean their taxes are going up.
Well,
Okay, that's the most important thing to say. I'm sure you may or may not get into it.
Morning.
This will be quick. Tom Adams, Williamsport. I see, so water authorities are on the agenda, so just a quick comment is I hope the county will look at encouraging any of the water authorities that put fluoride in their water to discourage them to stop doing that, because it's not good for anyone's health. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to reports. Or, I'm sorry, bid openings.
Thank you.
Go ahead. We
Good
can't
morning.
forget Nick.
We had one bid, the Williamsport Cross Pipe Rehabilitation. We received one response from Coppola Services, $11,778,149.06.
Having discussion on that.
Could you repeat that again?
I
11
can.
million?
It's right in front of you.
It's on the sheet, Commissioner.
$11,778,149.06.
That is a little lower than the last one, right?
No, this is
No.
for a different project.
This is, no.
This is
Yeah.
for cross pipes.
This originally started off, if I'm not mistaken, around 6, 7 million, then it went up to 9 million, then it went up to 12 million.
No, this is cross pipes, not relief wells,
Oh, okay.
a different part
Okay.
of the levee system.
Well, as
But
we were
still very
watching,
expensive part of the levy
Still
system.
more than what we were
Yes.
expecting.
What were we expecting?
I think,
I think around 4 to 5.
yeah,
Now,
we thought it would be as high as 8 if worst
We
case
also
scenario.
expected more than one bid.
Yes.
okay, thank you. Reports.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Presented for your ratification are invoices due through December 20th, 2023, to be paid on December 13th, 2023, for $1,074,260.62. The breakdown is as follows, with 59.54% being funded by the general fund at $639,603.56. 3.33% is being funded by Act 13 grants at $35,825. 11.90% is being funded by other grants and pass-through monies at $127,803.71. And 25.23% is being funded by RMS at $271,028.35.
Thank you. Have motion.
I'll move to approve.
a second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Info items, 4.1, discussion on reassessment.
Morning, Brooke.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everybody. My name is Brooke Wright. I'm Chief Assessor of the Assessment Office. I've worked in the Assessment Office since 1997. I went through the 1997 reassessment and the 2004 reassessment, so I've been in the assessment for 20 plus years now. No one is ever happy with a reassessment, but we do need a reassessment at this time. Why reassessment? Reassessment's needed when the property values used to make up the tax base are inconsistent, unfair, and/or too old to reflect current market trends and changes in the value of real estate. Reassessment cannot be used by the county or any other taxing body as a means to collect increased revenue. It's simply a tool to equalize assessments and ensure once again that all taxpayers are paying their fair share. Just a history on the Pennsylvania base year assessment system. Base year is defined by 53 PA CSA, which is our county consolidated statutes. Market values are based for the recent countywide revision of assessment of real property or other prior year, upon which the market value of all real property of the county is based for assessment purposes. Real property market values shall be equalized within the county, and any changes by the board shall be expressed in terms of base year values. When we refer to base year value, we refer to 2004 base year because that was our last reassessment. So our values are based on 2004, not today's current market values. There's extended periods of time between reassessments can lead to a lack of uniformity and vast inequities in the property tax burden. Unlike most states, Pennsylvania doesn't have requirements for cyclical property reassessments. According to the International Association of Assessing Officers, which we refer to the IAAO, the quality of valuation estimates deteriorate over time, with annual valuation affording maximum accuracy. The IAAO recommends that all properties be revalued at least every 46 years. We are now 20 years out from a reassessment next year. Underneath assessment law, some common misconceptions. The decision to reassess is made to increase tax revenue. That is false with exception. Reassessments are required to be revenue neutral under the PA County Consolidated Statutes. A tax district levying its real estate taxes on the revised assessment rule for the first time shall reduce its tax rate if necessary so that the total amount of taxes levied for that year against the real properties contained in the duplicate does not exceed the total amount it levied on the properties in the preceding year. The tax rate shall be fixed at a figure that will accomplish this purpose.
So in common terms, once the reassessment's done, you got it.
So a tax cap for a final tax rate. So after establishing a tax rate underneath subsection B, a taxing district may by a separate and specific vote establish a final tax rate for the first year in which the reassessment is implemented to levy its real estate taxes on the revised assessment. The tax rate under this section shall be fixed at a figure which limits the total amount of taxes levied for that year against the real properties contained in the duplicate for the preceding year to not more than 10% greater than the total amount it levied on the properties in the preceding year, notwithstanding the increased valuations of the properties under the revised assessment. Now, the increase of caps expire after the first year. So there are limitations on the increase of taxes, and this breaks it down to what I explained in the two prior slides. Reassessment is not a windfall for local government and school districts. State law requires local government and school districts to lower their taxes in the same proportion as tax base increases. For example, if the tax base doubles, they will be required to reduce their tax rates by half. Doing a reassessment, taxes will go up a third will decrease, and a third will stay the same. The counties and townships and boroughs must reduce their millage rate so that it does not exceed the total amount of taxes that was collected in the previous year. But the county and townships and boroughs can then still adjust the millage rate to collect no more than 10% of the total amount that was levied in the previous year. The school districts, they are held by the Act 1 legislation, which is tied to the index in that act. So, reasons why a reassessment is needed. Last reassessed the entire county in 2004. We did try to do a reassessment in 2012, and it was suspended due to the Biggest Water Act, which had to do with the flood insurance. Trends in the market have caused property values to become inconsistent and unfair. Common level ratio has fallen outside the 15% predetermined ratio. So then the State Tax Equalization Board, which we call STEB, mandates that the common level ratio must be applied to all appeals, which are the real estate appeals. One neighborhood may be growing while another is in decline. Real estate appeals are also driving the lack of uniformity, especially the commercial appeals. In the past 5 years, we have lost over $550,000 in county revenue. This is from the big box commercials, is what I'm talking about. We're talking Target, Rite Aid, the Lycoming Mall. We have lost money from them coming in to file real estate appeals.
Right.
Yes.
So it's 550 over the last 5 years. Now
Yes.
that 550 repeats itself, right? So that means
Depending
in another
on what
4
the assessments
years.
would drop down to.
Right, no, if there's no reassessment, in another 4 years, we've lost over $2 million in
Yeah.
tax revenue. Right, it was 550 for the first 5 years, and then it continues. And that's a huge loss of revenue. And the only way to make it up is to raise taxes. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's
That's
important
okay.
for people to understand that.
We also have school appeals, which we have a school district that files appeals on the sales price. So they have been doing this since 2011, which means our uniformity for that school district is out the window, I should say. The common level ratio, which we refer to as CLR, the common level ratio is a ratio that measures how a county's base year assessments, which is 2004, compare with the current real estate market valuations. It's further defined in Pennsylvania law. Common level ratio shall mean the ratio of assessed value to current market value, used generally in the county as last determined by STEB, which is the State Tax Legalization Board. Validated sales are reported to STEB and calculations are performed and released in June of each year. We are required by STEB to send all our sales once a month to the state, and they do perform the calculations. While STEB does not have the authority to force a county to perform a countywide reassessment, it is generally accepted that when a county falls outside of the 15% of the predetermined ratio, a reassessment should be conducted. If the county does not reassess and the ratio falls to 85% or below, then the state mandates that the common level ratio, the CLR, must be applied to all appeals. This negates the equity of the assessments. This is just the history of the common level ratio in relation to reassessments. So in 1988, when they started the reassessment, the common level ratio was 29.6. So after their reassessment, it was 67.7. 8 years later, in 1996.
Can I interrupt you there? Because I need clarification on that.
On what?
Well, this does not make sense to me. So why wouldn't be after your reassessment that you're at 100%? Why would you be at 67%?
They measure the sales.
I mean, if we do it, so what you're saying, I mean, what I'm seeing here is we did the reassessment, and I know it takes a year and a half, or well, maybe even longer, but, and there would be a little bit of lapse of sales of property. Could that drop it or raise it? But when you're talking like 2004, you did the reassessment, and it is, you would assume that it should be at 100%, but it's not. And I understand why not. But I'm just saying that, then to me, I'm looking at 1988 and seeing it 67.7%, that's common level ratio, right?
That is
That was a waste of taxpayers' money. I mean, that's a waste of money. If that's not above 94 at the reassessment, why are we doing a reassessment?
Well, Commissioner, can I just point one thing out to you? In 1988, it was at 30. It was 29.6. That meant that we were reducing taxes on commercial properties by
70%.
70%. Now, when it went to 67.7, and I don't know the details, but at least the reduction got down to a third.
But it would still fall under what would be considered 80%, right?
85%.
My understanding, it
It's
always
still
goes back up to
required.
100%.
Well,
Yeah.
it's supposed, it
But
can't.
back then,
it
we weren't
can't.
using the common level ratio in real estate appeals in 1988.
Plus, we had a predetermined ratio too, right? I mean,
We were at
we gave 75% of the
75%.
value of the property
Mhm.
as well. I get that. I get that. And maybe that's why it is 67.
Yeah, and I wasn't
because
here in the 80s.
We were given 75% as the assessed value.
Yeah. I think they've improved the methodology over
Yeah.
the last 40 or 50 years.
Mhm.
And they've improved, I mean, some of that was probably being done by hand, it's now being done by computers at the STEP board, right? I mean,
It
I
could
better
be.
understand
It could be.
yeah.
It's, now it makes a little bit more sense. Okay.
Ready for the next slide. Okay, this is the CLR history since the last reassessment in 2004. As we discussed, in 2005, we were at 91.2. By 2007, we were at 80%, which meant we had to start using the common level ratio in real estate appeals. It did grow in 2008, 9, and 10, but we started dropping down again, and as you can see, we're at 20.3 with 51.3. So our common level ratio has significantly dropped. The next two slides are recent sales. As you can see, I've just chosen some townships. we have assessed value, the county taxes, which the millage is 6.50, a sales date and a sales price of the past 2 years. The estimated county taxes, I just equalized the millage rate to 3.25 to give you an idea of what someone should be paying in taxes with today's value. So property in McIntyre Township, the assessment's $88,130. Their taxes are $572 and it just sold this year for $340,000. Their taxes should be $1,105, but it's based on the 2004 assessed value. We have a property in Clinton Township. The assessment's actually $35,990. It was sold for taxes were $233, and it only sold for $24,500. So the taxes would have went down to $79. Watson Township, down at the bottom, property sold for, the assessment's $284,000. Taxes are about $1,800. It sold for $765,000. Taxes should be around $2,400, and that's a commercial property. Yes?
So that last one you just gave should be 2,486, 1,000. Who's making up the difference?
It just goes on taxpayers.
On all the other taxpayers?
Mhm.
Right. That's the point. There's no equity. And the reality is that if you can afford to pay $765,000 for a commercial property, you should pay your fair
Share
share.
of taxes.
Right.
The next slide is some more sales. If you notice all the way to the column where it says acreage, those are vacant lands. So we have a property in Boys Town Borough, the assessment's $13,390 for 0.15 of an acre. It sold for $43,500. They're paying taxes on $87 now. With it selling for $43,500, it should be $141. You have a property in Muncie Creek Township. The assessment is $54,150. Their taxes are $351. It sold for $325,000, and that's 10.40 acres. Their taxes should be around $1,000. This is just to give you an idea.
Do the assessments ever change other than when you do a reassessment? Like if somebody
Do the values ever
like build
change?
a house, add on a house or anything like that?
If you put an addition on, you put enclosed porch on, you put outbuildings on your property, the assessment does change. But we cannot just say, oh, you paid this much for this property and put the value of that on there, because that's considered a spot reassessment, and that's illegal in Pennsylvania. Now, taxing authorities, they can appeal a property. The taxing authorities do have that right to appeal any property that they want to. So just to give you an idea, these next couple slides are from the sales that I showed you. McIntyre Township, property was 1,700 square feet, 21 acres, it sold for $340,000. 2004 assessed value is $88,130. That's what the taxes are being based on. Property in Brown Township, 798 square feet, it sold for $250,000. Our 2004 assessed value is $45,110. Property in Cogan House Township, 1,500 square feet, sold for $360,000. 2004 assessed value, $153,830. Loyalsock Township, 2,724 square feet, it sold for $599,000. Our assessed value is $274,690. Property in South Williamsport Borough, 1,527 square feet, sold for $125,000. Assessed value is $81,510. Property in the city of Williamsport, this is a commercial property up on 4th Street, 104,932 square feet, it sold for $3.8 million. We have $1.3 million on it. So there is a disparity in the assessments and the sales prices. The next item is a map of Pennsylvania. This is, the numbers in there are the last time a reassessment was done for each county. The 5 properties in red are 50 plus years ago. If you see Franklin Township, it's been almost 60 plus years since they did a reassessment. Their base year is 1961. So it's been a long time for them. Now, recently, Mercer County signed for a reassessment. Lycoming signed for a reassessment. Wharton County signed for a reassessment, Schuylkill County signed for a reassessment. Tioga County just finished up one, and I did speak to the chief assessor up there. They have 29,212 parcels. They said they had 14% come in for informals, which is a lot. It's about 4,000. But they were really surprised at the formal appeals because they only had 2.3% come in. They had,
Excuse me, what was their common liquor ratio up there?
that I don't know. They were down in the 50s too. I know that. They were down in their 50s. So with the 2.3 formals, 2.3%, they had 702 appeals filed for formal appeals and 650 appeals came in. So they felt that was really good. They were really happy with that. And their new values are effective next year. The next slide is just to give you an idea of what the cost of their reassessments are going to be, the ones I named off. Mercer County, their cost is $3.8 million. They have 60,500 parcels. That's $62 a parcel. Lackawanna County, their cost is $5.18 million. They have 102,794 parcels, so that's $50 a parcel. Schuylkill County, their cost is $6.6 million with 94,460 parcels at $69.80 a parcel. Tioga County, their cost was $1.7 million for 29,000 parcels at $61 a parcel, sorry. If Lycoming County was to go through a cost of a reassessment, we have 51,994 taxable parcels, 2,091 exempt parcels for a total of 54,085 parcels. The estimated cost would be $3.4 million to $4 million, which is cost per parcel would be $62.86 to $73.96. I actually thought it would be higher, but after speaking to Paul Miller from Tyler Company, I asked him why it wasn't higher, and he said because we have their software in place. We put that in place in 2020, so that does help alleviate the cost of the reassessment. So this is just an estimated baseline of when a reassessment starts, what is all involved. So all properties would be field visited in Lycoming County. The time to do this is 30 months. You need 30 months at least to do a reassessment. So for example, if you would start in January of 2024 and field visit every property, they'd finish in June of 2026. Value changes would go out in July of 2026. Informals are heard from July 1st to September 1st.
Tell them what an informal is.
Excuse me?
Tell them what an informal is. Nobody knows what an informal is.
Okay. Informal appeals are when, after people receive their value changes in July, they come in to discuss the value and everything, and the certified valuer will listen to what they have, whether it's documentation or an appraisal. They review that information, and they will make any changes that need to be made. If you don't agree with it, that's when you would go before a formal appeal, which is heard from September 1st to October 31st. And the new values would be effective for 2027. If you didn't sign for a reassessment until late in 2024, all those dates are pushed out further. So until you sign for a reassessment and you get on a list, we cannot nail down when the values would be effective. It depends on the company you go with. Do you have some questions, commissioners?
Brooke, can you touch on just for the audience that the number of companies that we have available for us to do that?
There are only 2 companies in Pennsylvania that do reassessments. When I discussed the other, Mercer County and Lackawanna had Tyler Technologies, and that's whose software we are using. Tioga County and Schuylkill County is using Vision software. So there is only 2 companies in Pennsylvania that do it.
So, if we would go with the reassessment, would we have to use Tyler's?
We should use Tyler, yes, because if you would decide all of a sudden, well, we want to go with Vision, now you're talking new software, which is an added additional cost.
Yeah, I think, as I recall, it was somewhere around $265,000 for that software, which at the time, I didn't know, I wasn't aware of the company Vision, okay? We did speak to the Tioga County Commissioners who just got through with their reassessment.
Mm-hmm.
What was very impressive was the fact that they went with Vision. And they asked Vision some good questions prior to them selecting them. And they were, I believe they were within $320,000 of what they anticipated the values were gonna be. That's incredible. And one of the reasons why they were so close is because they believe this company is a rural, their expertise is in rural values. And I was pretty impressed with that. Even though we don't have Vision software, the price, they didn't give me a price. But I think that the next board should look at that and see, bring them down like we brought Tyler and check their system and see if there could be savings.
I would also like to mention Vision consolidated with EST, which was 21st Century Appraisals that did the reassessment in 2004 too.
Who you worked for, right, or no?
Yes,
Independent.
that ran the assessment office, that we used their software and decided to go with other software when we came over to county.
Okay.
So on the good side, we did have IAS vet the software from Tyler when we made the decision to purchase it. And I think they gave it a pretty good thumbs up, but we can look at the other.
But Tyler makes software not just for reassessment.
Right.
Right.
They're
They
trying
have
to get
different
into every
other
part of county business.
software.
I don't blame.
So, well, Brooke, finish your, and then I do have a couple questions for you. So you did your when reassessment starts.
Okay.
What's your conclusion?
My conclusion is, although property reassessment is an unpopular topic among taxpayers, it's a necessary process to ensure each taxpayer is paying their fair share of tax burden. Moving forward with this project would be the first step the county can take to fix some of the current inequities that exist in Lycoming County. Cylindrical reassessments over time will continue to increase the accuracy and uniformity of the assessment to ensure that each property is assessed at a fair market value.
So I want to tell you, that's a great presentation.
Thank you.
And you did a fantastic job. Can you explain to the public the implication of the slide where the commercial property was sold for $3 million and is assessed at $1 million? In the context of what you described earlier, where big box stores come in for appeals. And what was great about sitting on the board a couple of months ago was that you saw the same attorney coming for multiple companies. And it's clear, and they're not doing anything illegal, this is their business. Their business is to go around and get hired by companies every 2 years to come in counties where the common level ratio is declining and get the tax break, right? But explain the context of how they come in and that would result in us having to apply the common level ratio and giving a reduction.
I have an example with a residential property, so we'll go with that instead. So let's say your old market value is $200,000. They come in to appeal the $200,000 assessment. I pull comparable sales of the property and raise it to today's market value, which let's say $350,000. So at $200,000, their county taxes are $1,625. At $350,000, their taxes should be $2,275. But because I have to apply that common level ratio, which is 51.3, so you take the 350 times 1.3, your new assessment is $179,550. Your taxes would be $1,167. So you see, we have a loss in taxes of $457. We are not taxing you on the new current micro value today. We have to apply the value and bring it back down to the 2004 base year. And that's where we are seeing the loss in taxes.
And on the commercial side, they come in and do the same thing. The difference is that if the board denies it, they go to court. When they go to court, they bring their appraisal in. In order to overcome the 50%, well, I'm rounding it out. The common level ratio is 50.52. 50. It means that it's a half, right? In order to deal with that loss, you have to find an appraisal that's
higher,
almost 100% higher
Yeah.
to account for the 50% loss. Well, how can you have an appraisal? One guy appraises it at 2 million, the other one appraises at 4 million? It isn't going to happen. And so what happens is that they're going to win in court, and they're going to get the common level ratio applied, and the rest of the public will pick up the tax burden.
I have a good example. In 2 weeks, I have a refund coming to you for Leclerc's boots, but I don't want to get into but that's a perfectly good example for 2 weeks.
And the companies aren't doing anything illegal or wrong. They are simply responding to the market. The market says, we can get a tax reduction, we're going to get it. You know, I think about this for us. If you went to your doctor and the doctor said, listen, we did an x-ray, you've got cancer. We talked to radiology, we talked to surgery, you got to get this removed. But I don't want to do it, doctor. It's going to ruin the quality of my life. It's going to be blah, blah, blah. Do you listen to the doctor? All the experts are telling us up and down the road, from people who study assessment for 25 years to companies to data. They're telling us that if you want to fix the fiscal problem, it's not a silver bullet, but if you want to fix one fiscal problem in your county having to do with how you assess taxes, you need to do the reassessment. I feel like I would be negligent as an elected official at this point to leave this office without voting to do reassessment. Even though people don't necessarily understand it, it's our job to teach them. That's what's great about live streaming and what's great about this room being filled with people, and I mean that literally today. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
You know, I want to bring out, when I first came into office, you know, I did the Center for Rural Pennsylvania. It's a legislative agency of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, okay? And Pennsylvania County Property Reassessment, Impact on Local Government Finances and Local Economies. It's doing a study on rural counties, okay? Now, this is a branch of our legislative body. And here's their executive summary. Based on the results of the study, the researchers suggest that the Pennsylvania General Assembly passed legislation that repeals the 6 existing property assessment laws and replaces them with a single consolidated property assessment. Passed legislation that requires all counties to conduct countywide property reassessments a minimum every 4 years. This is coming from an agency within the legislature that's telling the legislators that you should pass this. And we talked about that before, okay, that 54 states require it. Pennsylvania doesn't, maybe because it's a common law. I don't know.
44 states.
Well, I mean, 44 states require it. And
It's actually-
I went to Rick's School of Math.
I didn't know we got, I didn't know we acquired some more states recently that we didn't know about.
But anyway,
Never know,
I
open
think
border.
when you start to look at the common level ratio being reduced to where it's at, and you talk about the 3 taxing bodies that can take any property to appeal if they so choose, right? When that common level ratio continues to drop down, then it no longer becomes effective for them to appeal your taxes. And so it's that area between the lowest common level ratio and just below the 80, right, that is really out of whack. And it has a negative impact, no matter what anybody thinks. You know, yeah, there are people that are going to pay more in taxes, but not to that value of what their assessed value will reach. It is so far out of whack that it isn't fair. It's not fair to that person that has the same home right next door, and he's paying $100 more in taxes than the same house next door to him, because the school district took him to appeal. You know, that's just wrong, and it's happened. And
that's why there's the lack of uniformity.
And when you look at the $550,000 we lost in county from just the commercial, right?
Yes.
If everybody's home was an average of $200,000, you know, and I like to do it in homes. That's 458 homes that's taken off the rolls. 458 homes. Now, does government cut your taxes every year? No. So where do they make that up? They pass a tax increase. That's what they do. And I'm not arguing for or against, I'm just saying that's what they have to do. And it's on every one of those properties. So it does hurt the elderly. It does hurt those average homes. You know, they're gonna pay more than somebody that had them just build $1 million home, right? They're just going to pay more. So,
You know, we know that after reassessment, it's probably gonna, common level ratio is gonna fall to about 0.9 or so within about a year or so, or a year and a half. So one of the reasons we didn't do this before is that when it was it's very expensive proposition. And so, you know, from my perspective, when it was at 0.72, it was like, we're gonna spend $4 million and then have it drop quickly. We're at the point now where there's a big difference between 0.48, which is where it'll be next year, and 0.9. You're still almost looking at 50%. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you, it's like the roof is in really bad shape. We've put off replacing it. But now it's like, dear, if we don't replace the roof, the house is going to flood. And what you just described, Commissioner, is the house flooding, is the constant need to raise taxes because we don't have an equitable tax system, and we need to get revenue as opposed to everybody paying their fair share. If you can afford to buy a house for $750,000, you can pay $1,000 a year more in property taxes, your fair share. Your fair share representing what you do. I mean, that's, you know, and I honestly, I think if you talk to people and they understood that, they'd say, you know, you're right. That is fair, that is equitable, I'm willing to do that, right? Because I think people understand that, so. I'd love to hear from the public that's here.
well, yeah.
Okay, well, tell us.
Did you want me to stay to the end of the meeting?
You should, in case there's questions.
Sure, I can do that for you.
Okay, do we have any public comment regarding this issue? Yes.
Tom Scheck, Pennsdale. I heard two distinct trains of thought here this morning. I appreciate the presentation. I learned several things that I was not aware of. But you can't sit here, with all due respect, with a straight face and tell me that a number of reassessments are going to result in a lower tax rate. And what I'm concerned about is our people on fixed incomes. In my township, there's approximately 68% of the residents that are on fixed incomes. Their pensions, their 401ks, or whatever they have, do not go up on the cost of living. I have never seen government reduce a tax rate, ever. They've never found a tax they didn't like. And I don't care where you go, whether it's here, New York, Maryland, it doesn't matter. What do we say to those people? I understand that there is inequity, but I can bet you a bottom dollar when mine comes up to be reassessed, I won't be lowered, and I guarantee you my neighbors won't be lowered. I look at government services on what I get or what my neighbors get out of my tax dollars. I don't get a whole lot. And I think there's a lot of people in this room who could probably say the same thing. So what do we say to the people on fixed incomes? What do we say to these people who are barely making it right now under Bidenomics? What happens when they can't afford food or fuel or utilities? They can't afford their medication. And I realize, it's not until 2027, but 2027 is going to get here very, very quickly. This year went by in a flash. What do you say to them?
Okay, ma'am? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Mary Engel. I live in Loyalsock. And I hear the brouhaha coming from 20% of our population in Lycoming County is over 20% over 65. And I'm kind of here to maybe offer a possible solution so that you are not such terrible people. Okay. I've been a preparer for income tax preparer for over 45 years. And I've prepared taxes for many of these people, many of whom are on the fixed income. With inflation, they don't have as much money as they had before, and if they think that their taxes are going to be raised, they think they're not going to be eating. Michigan has a program whereby senior citizens can apply to have their property taxes forgiven. I know we're not going to be doing that. But I think if senior citizens could think, my taxes won't be raised, that I can apply to have them at least stay the same, they might be interested and not look at you as terrible people. This pathway I see, most pathways, I like to provide a solution that doesn't cost anything. We already have a program in place where we know all the senior citizens who are at a certain income level, how much they pay in taxes, and also they, whether they're disabled or widows, and their income tax level. This is our property tax program. This program allows seniors, widowers, disabled to apply for a rebate from $200 up to $700. These funds are provided by the Pennsylvania Lottery. But this program is already being vetted. People already apply for this, and you know if they're qualified. So these seniors could come in and say, I don't want my taxes raised. You could already know whether they're legitimate. And then you could, that's my idea.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor, I think that's a great idea, and there are programs out there to help the seniors in cases like this.
That doesn't, that's a whole separate program. I'm thinking that you could offer them a bone.
Yeah, no, you're right, but to get back to Tom's point, my job isn't about raising your taxes. My job is to equalize what the values are, right? That's our job.
But people hear what they want to hear.
I know, but
Yeah.
when you associate reassessment with taxation, you look at that as something bad. I have to tell you, every year your taxes are being raised by your school districts, by your municipalities, not necessarily by county, but most every year. I can't remember, well, recently maybe, but all tax increases from school districts every year almost. And that's the issue. It gets passed on to those people every year. And what we need to do is stabilize, equalize the fair value of the properties. And, you know, there's gonna be losers. You know, I was a loser in the last 2004. I mean, I paid a lot more in taxes, but I'm also working. I also had more, okay? It's sad. I mean, I don't want to see anybody lose their home, okay? But my job is to equalize those values. And I think programs, and while we're talking about it, you need to lobby your legislators, because here we have games of chance, skill games, that it's not going into the revenue stream of the state. And this is multi-billion. This isn't a million. This is multi-billion dollars that's going untaxed, which could help reduce the tax burden on our seniors, or the ones that are on a fixed income that just.
I'm a senior. I can afford to pay my taxes. But there are people in this room who are just hearing, oh, my taxes are going up.
Yeah.
You and I know the reassessment's coming, it's necessary to make everything equal. But not everybody hears that.
Right.
And a lot of these older people, if they thought, oh, I can apply so that my taxes will not go up. They might be happier with you. It's just an idea.
No,
It's
Mary,
great.
it's great information. Do you happen to know, have you read anywhere what percent of Pennsylvanians are not taking that program, participating in that program who are eligible? Have you seen any numbers?
No, but I know there are a lot of people who do not apply.
Okay.
For
That's
those
the
of you who aren't familiar, if you're low income and you're old, you can apply to get money from the Pennsylvania lottery. It comes in July. It's maybe $200 to $700. Maybe it helps you make the first payment. It doesn't cover everything. It's just, and I know there are a lot of people out there who do not participate. You're right. Maybe if they knew that, if they were part of that program, they could apply to have their taxes not raised, maybe more people would do it. Gets money out of the lottery system back into your pocket because they use it to pay their taxes.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Michelle?
Don't time me. Michelle Green.
Now I'm going to.
Williamsport. I wanted to share with you what the AARP thinks about property taxes. I think it's important. We have a Pennsylvania Office of Aging, and the AARP has a representative in Pennsylvania. And she sent me this part of their policy book, which talks about taxation. So I'm just going to quote some excerpts, if I may. And it says basically that the mainstay of local taxation is the tax on real estate known as the property tax. It is used to fund an array of critical state and local services, most notably public schools. Policymakers face challenges with the tax's structure and administration. This includes its burden on households with low incomes. While property taxes mainly exist at the local level, states also play an important role in creating property tax relief programs. So thank you, Mary, for sharing that. The property tax is the most burdensome tax for many individuals with low incomes and older people. It affects people directly as homeowners and indirectly as renters. Landlords may pass on tax burdens in the form of higher rents. The tax is imposed on an illiquid, indivisible asset rather than income. Long-term homeowners have little control over their current tax liabilities, as they are determined by decades of unforeseeable market dynamics. Thus, many people, particularly people with low incomes, have difficulty coming up with the money to pay taxes. And also, states should adequately fund and broaden their methods of financing public education. Education financing should be shifted from property taxes to less regressive forms of taxation. And do you know what a regressive tax is? Everybody?
Tell us, it's important.
It's similar to the tax that you have, it's called the sales tax, because the same tax is applied to all purchases, but it affects people with lower incomes much more than it does with higher incomes. So it's a regressive tax. So thank you very much.
Michelle, you raise a really important point, but the important thing to remember is that there are two conversations going on here, and that's what Commissioner Massera was pointing out. One is, and that's what you're talking about, the tax structure we have in our state and in our nation, and Tom, to a certain extent, that's what you're talking about, how that tax burden. What reassessment deals with is, okay, we have a property tax, how do we make it equitable? The question of whether we should eliminate, I mean, there were proposals in the State House several years ago to increase the income tax. You know, someone who's making $2 million a year as a lawyer or as a doctor, instead of them paying 3.07%, maybe they pay 5%, 6%, and you reduce the property tax. You do a 1-for-1. We couldn't get it through the State House. It was Governor Wolf's initiative, and we couldn't get it through. But, and by the way, the person who makes that income tax, some of those taxes can be reduced, can be applied for reduction on their tax burden. They can file to get some money back. But you're right, we need to redo the tax structure. The property tax is a regressive tax.
Well, the AARP is right. Not me, but they're right.
And you.
Thank you, Michelle. Sir?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Richard Henry. I reside in Wolf Township, Lycoming County. I'm one of the seniors that are on a fixed income. But I have a question. During the presentation, they showed a number of taxable parcels in Lycoming County, and it showed 2,091 were exempt.
That's correct.
What are those exemptions?
Exempt means they're exempt from real estate taxes. So it could be school districts, churches. We have properties that are FEMA buyouts. Township buildings are exempt. We have veterans exemptions. They're exempt from real estate taxes. If they're
Veteran exemptions?
Veterans exemptions. They are exempt from real estate taxes if they are 100% disabled in a armed conflict or war, and it's based on their income.
Okay.
So there are different types of exemptions that the properties are exempt from real estate taxes.
What about
Colleges,
hospitals?
Hospitals too.
They're exempt.
Not totally. Some parts of hospital are taxable and some are exempt.
What parts are exempt?
It could be a vacant lot, if they're not doing anything for hospital purposes, just like the colleges. The colleges are exempt, but if they have vacant lots that are not being used for college purposes, they are taxable.
Operating rooms.
Well, colleges and hospitals are making,
That's nonprofits.
Nonprofits, the nonprofits, if they're not.
colleges and hospitals are making mega bucks. They can afford to pay their fair share. Is there something we do about that?
That's legislative.
Oh, that's not this level?
We can't change it, but you can talk to your state.
We love to.
We love to, yeah, absolutely.
Our senators and representatives on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Brooke, maybe you can answer that question. I believe the last time I saw it, we had about $6 billion in assessed values, current assessed values without the reassessment, and 1 point some billion were,
It was like 1.2 billion that was
1.2
exempt.
billion are not taxable,
In Lycoming County.
right? That's, just under 20%.
And that's typical all over the state and frankly, all over the country where, the public charities law in this state was passed, I think, in 1895. And at the time, it was designed for a different situation that exists now. And so obviously, in 1895, someone who was doing charitable work, the legislature said, we're not going to make you pay property taxes, you're helping the homeless and so forth. Some of these nonprofits have grown into enormous corporations where the CEOs make $9–10 million a year. Now, one of the constituents who comes to us often has said that in the western part of the state, Bill Fenderson came a couple of weeks ago, said that some counties are moving out on a way to collect taxes from them. I don't know the details of it. Commissioner Messere, I don't know if you followed up on it, but we can't just unilaterally impose property tax on a nonprofit that's exempt under state law. We can do an audit, and the new commissioners can do this. We did it 5 or 7 years ago. You asked for an audit of their properties, right? Brooke, of the hospitals and so forth, which ones are being used for for-profit purposes.
Right.
If they're using a building for a for-profit purpose,
Then they would be taxed.
then they're obligated to pay taxes. They're reporting to us. They haven't hidden anything. It's not like they're out hiding it. But an audit should be done by the commissioners who come in to make sure that we contact them and ask for a report on the use of the buildings.
And another issue that nobody talks about is counties such as Lycoming, Sullivan, Potter. They have a tremendous amount of land that's owned by the state, right?
And that's not taxed?
It's not taxed. And we lobby all the time that you need to give us in lieu of taxes because you're not allowing us to develop. You can't have this land. Well, if we could develop that, can you imagine how we could reduce the taxes?
And there's land like that in Lycoming County.
I think there was, don't quote me, I thought it was about 267,000 acres. Yeah, that's a
Start
lot
writing
of
letters
acres.
to representatives and senators, I guess, get things going.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Anybody else? So, yeah, go ahead.
I just feel compelled to just bring up this one key takeaway here. So we need to equalize the assessed values across the board. But what's important is say the values double, as it says there, your millage rate has to go down by half. So if your millage rate, say you're paying $600 and your millage rate is 6 millage points, it goes down to 3. The value goes up. Your tax cost, your tax bill does not change. And then the maximum by law that it can go up is 10% of that. So it would be $660 maximum if the commissioners were to do that. They don't control the school board, they don't control the municipality.
So,
I just, it's important that everybody gets that point.
yeah.
But that's only for a year.
Well, then, but then if they want to raise their millage, they can raise their millage.
But they can do that even without the reassessment.
Understood.
Yeah, and in fact, I think what Commissioner Messere and they're trying to point out is that you're more likely to have to raise your millage if someone isn't paying their fair share of taxes. If those buildings we saw don't pay their fair share, the burden gets shifted to everyone else. The only way to get the same amount of revenue is to raise taxes.
The thought is, too, you, and Commissioner, you brought it up. You said, what happens when we're not bringing in the money that we lose because of the undervalue?
Right.
There are less services that we can provide, or there are capital improvements that we kick down the road for 4 to 8 years. And instead of paying the $2 million, now it's $6 million for that improvement.
Well, what is amazing is what Brooke told us, that in 5 years, we've lost $550,000 to the big box stores, the commercial, right? Now, start and go 5 years forward. You always have to say to yourself where you're going to be in 5 years. We will lose $2,750,000 of revenue just on those 550. Just on that 550. $2,750,000 is a lot of revenue to lose, and we still have to provide the same services. So at the very least, if for no other reason than saying, listen, we should make sure that the huge, I mean, if you look, these are profitable companies, right? Lowe's, Target. I mean, they may have their individual problems from time to time, but that's a lot of revenue in 5 years.
So I'm gonna make a statement, then we're gonna move on. Yes?
One comment that people need to realize is county taxes are not a substantial amount of taxes that you're paying. The school is significantly more, like double or triple. And so a small increase in county taxes is not affected.
Correct.
Is the school tax based on value?
Yeah. Okay. But their millage rate is a lot, right?
But their millage rate, too, would have to drop in, if the.
Make it equal, right?
Yep.
So I hear everybody's argument, I hear my colleagues' arguments. I agree with a lot of their points. And as I look at the county property tax assessments across the state, there's some that have put this off for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And every environment's different. Every county's different. Our county's different. It's unique in so many challenges and ways. When I look at life, timing is everything in life. Everything. And you can sit there and argue and say that the roof's leaking, we gotta replace the roof. But sometimes you can't replace the roof because you don't have the money. You might have to patch it for another year or two to get by. Okay, I'm very concerned about our budget, and that's the reason why I'm gonna table today, because we're spending too much at one time. In order to run a business, you have to have cash flow. You have to have fund balance. And we're gonna have to have a discussion over the next 2 weeks, instead of spending everything to fix everything at once, which we've done a lot with this board, an awful lot. Some say too much. We've been putting a ton of money into buildings and fixing the capital expenses. We have $21 million more, $22 million more of capital expenses going into next year. Some of those expenses are going to have to be put off. They have to be put off. Because take a bond on it, bond rates are too high. And this is where I'm going with this. We are in a down economy. Interest rates are through the roof. Inflation's high, you know, it's come down some. We're on the verge of a world war. There's 2 wars going on in the country. You can sit there and say, well, this is out till 2027. We don't know what the economy is going to be like that. True. But the timing right now, in my opinion, isn't good. Because my colleague said yesterday, if you recall, I don't even know if we have $4 million to do a reassessment. So that's where I'm at right now. I hear the arguments, they're legit. I think we do need a reassessment, but the timing right now is not right. I talk to seniors. My heart breaks for them when they're deciding between milk and eggs, when they're split prescription medicines in half. They can't even take their prescriptions right because they can't afford them. You know, we don't take care of our veterans. We don't take care of our seniors. It's going to affect them. And I understand that it equalizes the tax base. And Commissioner, you're right. If somebody can build a $750,000 house, they can afford an extra $1,000 in taxes. But the misnomer that I've heard this so many times, taxes go up a third will decrease, and a third will stay the same. I don't agree with that. We don't know that for a fact. We do not know that for a fact.
Yeah, you do.
And that's your opinion.
No, that's the studies.
It's the
Studies
studies.
show you that.
Yeah, we don't know anything for a fact.
We don't
but
know anything.
but we do know in case after case, when they do reassessments, a third go up, a third come down, a third.
So I understand, I'm in the minority during this argument today. I would be in the majority if we were in a better time economically, and we are not. And I'm gravely concerned about the people that cannot afford this. I'm concerned about the county, whether we can afford the assessment right now at this point, because we have to push capital projects down the line. Okay, we might have to take out a short-term note, because those projects, some of those projects are talking about, for instance, the air conditioning and HVAC system over at the courthouse, which is outdated. Why take your cash balance and pay for that now, when it's a project that's going to last 20 years? You should borrow on something like that. You should take a short-term note and borrow on something like that. Something that the coroner's building, which is a 40-year building, 50-year building, you know, if you don't have the cash in your fund right now, you can't do everything at one time is what I'm trying to say. And we're doing too many projects at one time, and we're depleting our cash, our fund balance. And you have to have above 14 million in that fund balance for the standards, and we're getting below that. And that's our responsibility as a budget, to make sure that fund balance is healthy. So as we push projects down the line, we might have to say, listen, we may have to pay a little bit more down the line, but we can't afford it right now. We just can't. Just like the people can't afford it. They have to live on a budget, so do we, and it's a tough decision. This is probably the toughest decision I had to make regarding reassessment. It is. I hear everybody's arguments, and I agree with them. But it got down to 26% back in 1988. It may have to go down, in my opinion, it might have to go down to the low 40s before we move out on it. Okay? We'll eventually have to move out on it. I get that. But the timing is not right now. And timing in life is everything.
Well, Brooke, when
You may
would,
disagree with that.
when would Tyler require the money? I say Tyler because they had given us a quote. When, they don't want the money right now, obviously,
I
right?
do not know how they bill. I would imagine half down. Do you recall, Tom?
Mr. Heap?
It was third, over the
Okay.
36-month period.
Over a
That's
36-month
when I
period, so
did
they
it.
would,
That's when I presented it back then. Like, COVID changed everybody's life. As a business for Tyler,
Yeah.
I can't speak to that, but that's
Right.
what it was. It was third. That's how we paid for the software.
right,
So-
that's right. Okay, so they would be looking for $1 million maybe this year, and then if it's a 3 or 4 year project, then 12 or 14 months later, $1 million.
They could
All right,
be.
so we would just have to budget it over a period of 3 or 4 years.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we go make a substantial investment in our business, real estate business, we don't go out and buy a $250,000 home or investment property and give the bank cash. Don't do that. And in this budget, that reflected exactly what we were doing. We didn't go out to borrow. And but these are capital projects that have expected life expectancies of 15 to 30 years. Well, the responsible thing to do is go borrow. That's what you do. You buy. Are not very reasonable right now. Okay, so then you need to look at a bank loan. They're not really reasonable, all right, but it sure beats using your cash.
Yep.
And in providing that you can, within a certain limit, that you can pay that money back, okay, your debt service, without raising taxes, okay, then that's the responsible thing to do in your long-term capital projects, of which we've had. We've sold land. We've done everything we said as a government we're going to do to try to cut expenses, okay, and to get rid of properties. I feel proud of that, okay, but because of the perception of reassessment, everybody thinks it's a tax increase, and it's not. It's a reevaluation.
It's an investment in your fiscal health of the county.
No, it is the health of the county.
It is.
And when you look at the study, it tells you, if you don't, your county is going to, you're gonna lose population. You're gonna lose population because it's not healthy.
Commissioner, I agree with your statements, I just don't think the timing's right this
I know,
year.
it wasn't right in 2012 with the Bigger Waters Act, because we sat there and said, well, the 50% of Muncie and Jersey Shore, they were gonna lose all their values. And what happened? More people went in and bought flood zone properties than you could imagine, right? Those values didn't decrease like we had anticipated, you know? So it was, in hindsight, it was a bad move.
No, I know. On the bond issue, you may see us coming to you saying that we're looking to try to do a short-term note on some of these capital projects, because the bond market, as Commissioner Becerra mentioned, if you get in with a bond, you can't necessarily get out of that bond without a penalty within a certain amount of time. So it isn't a great time to take out a bond because we'll be locked in. We can take out a short-term note on the capital projects, a short-term loan from a bank, and then when the bond market improves in 3 or 4 years, we can convert the loan to a bond. So, you know, you may see us coming back in 2 weeks with that, with a proposal to do that. And it doesn't mean that we're not, it means we're being responsible with making sure that our long-term projects are put out over 20 or 30 years.
And I think
Totally different
the
issue
final
than
thing I would say
assessment.
is that we're on our way out, we hear the criticism. Oh, you're gonna do this on your way out. You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. If I had to take a vote today, and I've been a proponent for reassessment for a very long time, okay? I mention it all the time, and it doesn't get done, okay? But if you don't allow it to come to a vote, I'm okay with that. I would be a little disappointed, but the bottom line is, I'm not gonna have a vote only for the next Board of Commissioners to rescind it. That makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And when a vote's made, it should be made for the betterment of Lycoming County. Not just the county, but the employees that work for her. You know, that's really important. Our employees work hard for this county, and they need stability as well. So, you know, that decision is yours. You're the chairman, and you'll make it.
Well, we don't have to have a 3-0 vote on
No,
this.
we
We can have a
don't.
2-1 vote, and I'm willing to bet my bottom dollar. You know, people said last week, well, you shouldn't vote on Arcturus because you're leaving it to us. You shouldn't vote on this. Au contraire, which in French means just the opposite, right? We've spent 9 months studying the Arcturus. Commissioner Messer sat in his 12 years on a statewide reassessment board, right?
Yeah.
He went to CCAP. He went to meeting after meeting after meeting to study and understand reassessment. So it's almost irresponsible. I've been here 8 years. It's almost irresponsible of us if we don't take action. Just because it happens to be at the end of our term doesn't mean that it's not necessarily the right thing to do. So that, I just want the public to understand that. It doesn't mean we're saddling people with someone, it's the doctors saying, hey, doctors have told us that there's a cancer growing in the county with this unequalization of the tax burden that's gonna hurt senior citizens more.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to
Yeah.
move on. I'd like to complete our meeting before the school day ends for our kids. So we have a lot to get on to, so let's move on to personal actions. Yeah.
All right, Commissioners, seeking your approval on the following personal actions as conditional offers of employment, subject to the successful completion of a background check and all other employment conditions as outlined in attachment A. So, in the Department of Public Safety, Rachel Courtwright, telecommunicator 1, full-time replacement, $19.66 per hour, 80 hours per pay period, transfer date December 24, 2023. The second action there in public safety is going to be tabled. There's still some ongoing discussion on that one. In the prison, Christine Wenger, correctional officer, full-time replacement, $20 per hour, 80 hours per pay period, start date December 17, 2023. In the prison, Ty Nichols, correctional officer, full-time replacement, $20 per hour, 80 hours per pay period, start date December 24, 2023. Merry Christmas. In the pre-release center, Gabriel Campana, resident supervisor 1, full-time replacement, $18.10 per hour, 80 hours per pay period, start date December 18, 2023. Domestic Relations Office, Tammy Leffley, clerk 3, part-time replacement, $16.17 per hour, not to exceed 1,000 hours in a year, start date December 26, 2023. And in the courts, Melissa Bell, executive secretary, full-time replacement, $19.20 per hour, 75 hours per pay period, transfer date December 24th, 2023.
Okay, motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
I want to thank Kane and Ally upstairs in our HR department. When Kane came aboard back in, I believe, March, we had about 48 openings. We're down to about 15 right now. He's done a tremendous job along with Ally and the entire staff up there in HR to reduce our job openings. They've been actively out recruiting employment opportunities for people and greatly reduced that by 2/3. So I told Ally to tell Kane he has to have it down in single digits by Christmas, or Santa isn't coming. So just joking around, but he's done a tremendous job, and they're down to about 15 right now. So thank you to the staff up there for the great work they've done. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Hereby carried. This time we'll recess Commissioners' public meeting for the salary board, and we'll convene the salary board at this time.
All right, salary board, seeking your approval on the following salary board actions as outlined in attachment A. In the district attorney's office, request to add a full-time 75-hour per pay period assistant district attorney position to the team.
Okay. Motion?
I'll move to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Isn't there 2 actions?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
But this is a salary board act.
Yeah.
No, we're adding a position, so it's salary board.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I did get a chance to read the second one. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, read the second one.
Well, we shouldn't do that.
You don't want to do them together?
You can.
We should do them
Let's
separately
do 'em
in case
separate.
one of us
Got
decides
it.
to
Let's
Got it.
disagree.
Okay, so I have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I have a second.
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion or comments?
Who seconded?
Commissioner is there.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead.
Who's on third?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Now the next one.
All right, in the prison, request to increase the stipend to $3,500 per year for the sergeant training position for 2020.
Okay, I have a motion.
What was it previously?
24,
25?
24.
24.
24.
Went up 1,100. A motion?
I'll move to.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion. I'd like to make a comment, please. I'd like to thank the sergeant. He does all the training at the county prison. If we didn't have him the officers would have to go to other sites, which would result in probably travel with hotels, being away for the day. He does everything in-house, which has saved us thousands of dollars over the years. He's been a trained officer for I don't know how many years. Yeah, a long, long time. And has saved the county an enormous amount of money. So we figure this is a way to give him a bonus to thank him for what he's done.
And I'll add to
Saved the
this,
county.
that gentleman, during some of the toughest times this county's ever seen, right, with the personnel down over, almost 30 people, this guy worked tirelessly. He took on extra shifts. He didn't have to do this. He took on extra shifts, extra responsibilities, and like Scott said, he trains all the new staff. We are indebted to this guy. He is extraordinary. He goes way above, and I have no issue
During COVID, during COVID, he was 16-hour days were normal for him.
Right, because the reason it was is because we had new staff cycling in, and every new prison guard had to be trained by him. So when you saw the turnover that happened because we had so much forced overtime during COVID, the man had to be there literally 16 hours a day to train all those new people. He trains all the new
Absolutely.
people. So,
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye, so carried. So 4-0 on both salary board actions. Thank you, Nikki.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, we'll adjourn the salary board and reconvene the Commissioners' Public Meeting for TDA actions.
Commissioner seeking your approval on the following TDA actions as outlined in attachment C. In the district attorney's office, request to add a full-time 75-hour per pay period assistant district attorney position to the TDA.
May I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So carried, thank you. Move on to action items.
8-1, Tanya, you still on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for bearing with us, Tanya.
Sure. I have CEDACOG is seeking your approval today for an amendment number 2 to the subrecipient agreement with the Borough of Montoursville. This is for 2019 CDBG funds, and it's for the John Dorn Municipal Building, the removal of architectural barriers. This is to reflect an extension that was granted by DCED.
Okay, a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
All right, 8.2 through 8.10, Kristen.
Morning, Kristen. Thank you,
Morning,
Kristen.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Should I
Last
take-
5 minutes of it.
I know. Should I take each one individually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
8.2 is vote to approve the amendment number 2 to subrecipient agreement with the Lycoming County Water and Sewer Authority. This is ARPA funds, and this is to reallocate $208,000 from the limestone water distribution system improvements to the Schoolhouse Road Critical Loop project.
Okay, a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
8.3 is approve an amendment to subrecipient agreement with Hughesville Borough Authority in the amount of $338,656. This is to add those funds to the meter project and in accordance with the award made by the commissioners on September 21st.
Have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
8.4 is a subrecipient agreement with the Greater Lycoming Habitat for Humanity in the amount of $100,000, and that is towards homes to be built in South Williamsport.
A motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
Amendment 8.5 is an amendment to subrecipient agreement with Montoursville Borough in the amount of $500,000. And this amendment will add the $500,000 to the finished water reservoir project in accordance with the award made by the commissioners on September 21st, and also reallocate $250,000 from the South Montour Street water line replacement to the finished water reservoir project.
Okay, a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I second.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
8.6 is an amendment to the subrecipient agreement with Jersey Shore Area Joint Water Authority in the amount of $1 million. And this is to add those funds to the Larry's Creek Water Plant, which is in accordance with the award made by the Commissioners on September 21st.
Okay, motion? I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 8.7 is a subrecipient agreement with the American Rescue Workers in the amount of $100,000, and that is towards the Saving Grace Shelter Furnace Project.
Motion? I'll move. All in favor, say aye. Aye. So carried.
8.8 is an amendment to the subrecipient agreement with the Williamsport Municipal Water Authority in the amount of $640,944. And that is in accordance with the award made by the Commissioners on September 21st, and that is for the Brook Street Pressure Reducing Valve Relocation Project.
A motion? I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
8.9 is...
Before you
Sure.
go on, I just want to thank you and CEDACOG for the help you've given us on the ARPA. As you see, a lot of this money being awarded out of the ARPA account. It's been worked on for well over a year, and these municipalities are very appreciative of these monies coming forward to their infrastructure projects, and it's been a lot of hard work and team effort. We want to thank you and your staff.
Thank you very much. We've been working with the county. I've been personally working with the county for 11 years now on largely infrastructure projects, and I know that there's a lot of need in the county for these types of projects. You are awarding $2.5 million worth of the 12, well, you would receive $22 million in ARPA funds. $12 million is part of these projects.
And again, it goes back to our theme that these monies were spent for generational projects. They're going to help communities for a great period of time.
Certainly, a lot of these are water and sewer projects, but also building homes, fixing fixing some needs in some homeless shelters, etc. So there's a lot going on.
We can do it. Thank you. Okay.
Sure.
And we have another one.
We have two more.
Yeah, two more. Two new exciting ones.
Do we have to vote on that?
We just did. Did we? Yeah, we did. Yep. We're on 8.9 now.
Yep. 8.9 is a subrecipient agreement with STEP Inc., and that is in the amount of $868,000 for the ELRC Region 7 Child Care Support Program.
And we have some representatives from STEP here today. Would you like to speak?
I'll do so.
And how this money is going to be utilized?
Because the commissioners like to talk, we'll give you 15 seconds.
As you know, I talk
that,
fast.
Isn't that an overstatement?
I said commissioners.
So this project is really exciting. We've been working with Kristen and the Lycoming County Planning and the commissioners for a long time on this. This is basically based on some of the information that we did from the Day Without Child Care report that was actually a few years ago that we put out now. This is a project that we've been working on for over 3 years when the ARPA first came out. There's three kind of components of this, and I would like to, before I get into that, introduce Melissa Kirshner. She's our director of our ELRC Region 7. The ELRC, just as a quick note, is basically the OCDEL approved entity to provide childcare, so support for families with low income who have children, as well as childcare providers within the 3-county region of Lycoming, Clinton, and Tioga. And so these funds are specifically going to be used for Lycoming County. For one thing, it's going to be used for developing a substitute pool for childcare workers for our providers within the county. So one of the things that we have is a workforce development problem within childcare, because the amounts of individuals that have the capacity to be able to have childcare, those degrees and all those pieces, and actually the vacancies within the childcare facilities is so high because they can't find people. This is going to be basically like a program, an app that we will actually vet all the individuals who will be on that, and childcare entities that have openings will actually be able to determine who is available and get them on as like a trial. They'll have all their clearances, all of the proper training, and then at that point, if they would like to hire those persons, that could be an opportunity. So we're really seeing that as a workforce development component, which is going to be huge. It's also going to provide technical and training assistance specifically for childcare providers within the counties. We have a lot of childcare providers who have the capacity to have more children, but don't have the staff. So this is going to be a training thing to really help support providers to hope that we don't have any more childcare facilities shut down and various things like that. And then the third component is actually to pull it all together through a very robust website that childcare providers will be able to use and to manage. This is a 3-year opportunity. One of the parts of the workforce development and training is that conference that we will actually be hosting in April 12th and 13th, called The Power of Expression. And we actually have somebody from the state, Pennsylvania Key, will be coming to speak to business owners of the importance of childcare as it relates to economic development. So we're really excited for that. We actually have the college, some of the folks at the college on board to talk about how childcare should be seen as a benefit to employees, and that you're going to be able to have more productive employees if you have a way and you have systems in place to help support the family structure. So really excited about this. Happy to take any questions. Really want to thank Kristen for these years of support helping us to get to this point.
So Rochelle, this attacks 2 issues that plague our county, which is the labor force and child care issues. And
Yes.
it helps attack both of them on a short-term basis, but can lead to long-term effects and generational effects because they're talking about working with our kids.
Yeah, the whole idea is that this will actually robust build the capacity of childcare workers within the community and bring new ones on board. And actually give them the proper training to be able to move forward. They will actually, in the substitute pool, they actually will be employees at STEP at first, so they will have all the benefits and everything of our organization. And then if a child care provider would like to hire them, that'll be a very easy transition. So really kind of looking at this, like you said, a generational approach to try to help in some way to support that child care crisis.
And it helps our early childhood also.
Yeah, it's the early learning, and I mean, it's an investment in our future. In 15 years, these kids who are 3 years old now are going to enter the workforce. 15 years goes by in a blink of an eye. And we're either going to have 18-year-olds who enter the workforce really with soft skills, with training, who have done well in kindergarten because they were in early learning, who have done well in first grade. We know that kids who go through early learning have a higher graduation rate from high school. They have a higher reading score level in kindergarten and first grade. They just overall perform better, and it's a great thing. We really appreciate all the work that you guys have put into it, and we just continue to try to help any way we can because it is an investment in our community. As much as the water and sewer lines is an investment, this is an investment in our capital, our human capital.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried, thank you. We have one more.
Yep. 8.10 is a resolution authorizing the use of ARPA funds to implement the STEP project essentially, but it implement responses that address the negative economic impact on child care facilities in Lycoming County. Should I read the resolution?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is a resolution of the County of Lycoming, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, a recipient of the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, SLFRF, designating child care facilities as experiencing a negative economic impact. Whereas on March 11th, 2021, President Biden signed the U.S. Senate amended H.R. 1319, PL 117-2, known as the American Rescue Plan Act, hereafter ARPA. And whereas on May 10th, 2021, the U.S. Treasury issued the interim final rule, and on January 6, 2022, issued the final rule to implement ARPA in Title 31, Part 35 of the Code of Federal Regulations. And whereas the County of Lycoming has been allocated $22,007,003 in funds from the U.S. Department of Treasury, which are distributed to the county, from ARPA for covered costs and eligible expenses to be incurred during the period which began on March 3rd, 2021 until December 31st, 2024 to be expended by December 31st, 2026. And whereas the ARPA final rule permits the County of Lycoming to identify and respond to pandemic impacts beyond those specifically enumerated, including designating classes that were impacted by the COVID-19 public health emergency or its negative economic impacts. And whereas impacted entities are those impacted by the disease itself or the harmful consequences of the economic disruptions resulting from or exacerbated by the COVID-19 public health emergency. And whereas the County of Lycoming, in consultation with community stakeholders, has identified that child care facilities have been negatively economically impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic due to lack of qualified staff and overall capacity, and multiple facilities has closed as a result of the economic disruptions. Now therefore be it resolved that the County of Lycoming hereby designates child care facilities within the county as being a class impacted by the negative economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and shall utilize ARPA funds to implement responses that address this impact.
Now,
Thank you.
one of my biggest concerns is sustainability. And we all know that this is not something, I mean, I'm concerned about it. You know, spending the money on it, knowing that in the future, that money's not there. But it does raise awareness of the critical need to either change definitions or start funding what is critical. And I know you're a proponent, Commissioner Marabito, on early learning. When we were talking about the ARPA funds, that was one of the first things that you said. Always. There's not a day that goes by that he's not worried about educating our youth. And I commend you for that. Just as you were with generational projects. I think we've accomplished a lot through these two agencies. I'm proud of what we've achieved, okay, but this is something that needs to be addressed long term. Your infrastructure, pipes, sewer pipes, water, yeah, that's critical. But this is definitely something that's tangible now. And we've seen the sad effects that COVID had on our children. And we're gonna need to spend some money to get them back.
You know, I think when we look at this, a couple of points on the sustainability that you raised, and this is why the conference is being held in April, because we're trying to get the business community to understand that their investment, just like they provide health care because health insurance keeps their employees healthy and keeps them working, so does an early learning investment for their employees, whether it's through a stipend or whether building facilities at their place of work gives them a workforce that is there all the time. And so that's part of that is the awareness that you're talking about and the financial part. I think as a practical matter, you know, the county can also start to think about whether or not it makes sense to use some of the Act 13 money on a yearly basis to try to help bolster, just like we bolster the volunteer fire departments, bolster the early learning centers to the point where they're able to take off on their own. We do know that once you build capacity and you get enough enrolled, and that means parents can go back to work, they can sustain, they can become profitable. You can have profitable early learning centers. You know, I think all of us do this, but I'm asking constituents, look at your family, look at your children, and I bet you're proud of what they've accomplished in their life, and I'm willing to bet a lot of that accomplishment is due to education that they got. You know, my grandparents didn't even speak English when they came over. Couldn't even speak English, right? And that's what I think we look at. Where are we moving as a community, as a country, where we are giving people the tools? Education is a tool, you know, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I think we just need to add one last part to the resolution. The fact that it's duly adopted this 14th day of December 2023 by the County of Lycoming, Pennsylvania. Signed, Scott L. Metzger, Chairman, Tony R. Sarah, Vice Chairman, Richard Merritt, Secretary.
Motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And when you talk about Arcturus and investors, these are two categories, child care and early learning, that is very difficult to make money. So you're not going to get investors to do it. So to your point, it's time to sacrifice. And, you know, we have to sacrifice as a society, as a community, to fund things like this.
Thank you,
8.11.
Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your efforts and hard work. 8.11.
Christine.
Christine. Thank you for bearing with us.
No problem. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Christine Weigel, Executive Director with Lycoming County Water and Sewer Authority. Thank you, Commissioners, for your consideration today for a capital contribution towards what is a time-sensitive and critical infrastructure of the Montoursville Regional Sewer System. At Lycoming County Water and Sewer Authority, as you know, we own and operate a number of different water and sewer infrastructure, as well as administer stormwater infrastructure. We have utilized the ARPA funding. This particular project of the Montoursville Regional Sewer System is a bit unique and doesn't fit neatly into those requirements for ARPA. In my 18-plus years at Lycoming County Water and Sewer Authority, I've not come to the Commissioners to specifically ask for grant money for the Montoursville Regional Sewer System. We've been self-sustaining. We've proactively and responsibly taken measures to address our infrastructure needs. That was always the intention when the authority was formed and when the county was a partner with Lycoming County Water and Sewer Authority in the Montoursville Regional Sewer System. So back in 1998, you were a partner in the infrastructure and you actually owned capacity from 1998 until 2012. This particular project, again, being a legacy issue and a historical issue of the Montoursville Regional Sewer System, is the outfall, effluent outfall pipe of the Montoursville Regional Sewer System. It was a project that was deferred in 1998, and upon the past 2 or 3 years, we've been working through the details and have come up with the lowest cost alternative for us for the effluent pipe. Again, a legacy and historical issue with the project being deferred leads us to try to come up with the most creative and long-term solution for the customers of the Montoursville Regional Sewer System. MRSS, or Montoursville Regional Sewer, makes up 60% of our budget. So the fiscal viability of that system is important to us, as well as that growth corridor that Montoursville Regional Sewer System serves. So from Montoursville to Muncie is a designated growth corridor and has been designated such over the past 25 years. We are, although the economy isn't good, we are seeing a lot of economic growth and development happening in that corridor. We want to continue to promote that. And although we have a rate increase planned in 2024, adopted for 2024, and planned in 3 of the next subsequent years, we feel with an investment of a capital contribution towards the MRSS sewer system, we can keep those rates competitive among the water and sewer systems, bring additional customers into that system. So our request to you is multi-year and is not only for an investment in critical infrastructure, but is an investment in the economic growth of that corridor, as well as assuring that we can meet our trustee requirement for the purposes of the general public. The county does still, although you don't own capacity, does still guarantee the debt and the bonds associated with MRSS. So we feel this is a request that not only allows the growth of our corridor, ensures the economic viability, but also assures that we don't place an undue burden on the county in the next 5 to 10 years.
So I think the proposal is $200,000 a year for 5 years, correct?
That's correct.
And this goal is to be able to secure the main line, you called it the effluent line, the main line that takes the processed effluent waste from the sewer to the river.
Correct.
And we currently do not own the land on which it sits. It's owned by another party.
Correct. We have a temporary easement.
We have a temporary easement that the day has come 25 years ago that they didn't think would ever come, and the 25 years are up, and now the easement's about to expire.
Correct.
Okay, and so what you came up with is that it is smarter to purchase the easement out on either side to protect that pipe. And it's an extraordinary capital investment, but it basically gives you in perpetuity the right to discharge from that sewer plant to the river.
Correct.
Okay.
And these funds would come from Act 13.
Act 13. I think it's a really, really good and important use of the funds because without that easement, we are dead in the water. I mean, we can't get the waste from the processing place
Well, we could,
or dead in the
5
sewer.
times the
Yeah.
cost.
Right, at 5 times the cost.
Christine, what was the price tag on it again?
The price tag for the project is around $2.5 million, and our request is $1 million.
Right.
Bail out Montourville.
Is that where the chairman lives?
Don't go there.
I'm just saying.
We appreciate the county's partnership in the Montoursville Regional Sewer System over the years. I do believe that that corridor is in a position to grow. And as I mentioned, there is a significant amount of interest beyond the reinvestment in Lycoming Mall that we're hearing right now. So we look forward to a bright future.
We're
Well,
excited. Good.
Yeah, I think we're glad that you found a solution that, while it may seem a little high, it's not really in the context of amortize that out over the next 50 years. I assume you're gonna be in operation at least 50 years, right?
At least.
And one thing that you mentioned in our meeting was the fact that the mall was not there. That's hurt your bottom line.
Yes.
And by having it, bought and being proposed to be something new, would hopefully bring those things back in the positive direction.
The reinvestment and reuse of that property will be very valuable to that corridor and to our water and sewer systems.
And that pipe isn't just taking waste from Montoursville, it's taking it from your whole system, right?
That's the Montoursville Regional System, so it's Montoursville, Fairfield, portions of Muncie and Muncie Creek Township, as well as Loyalsock, which
So-
is owned by Williamsport Sanitary Authority.
Okay, so all those communities are benefiting.
That is correct, not just Montoursville.
Not just Montoursville.
So as you lose those customers over the years, as you have at the mall, that puts expense back on other people, residents.
And we understand the historical issue of deferring this particular project to today. The intent back in 1998 is the system would have grown by now, and we would be able to handle this ourselves, but unfortunately, the original partnerships back into play, and we're here asking from you for the investment in Montoursville Regional Sewer System.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to go on record that, ladies and gentlemen, this lady is a rock star.
No, you don't like using that term.
It's the right people. She's done a lot for the region. Okay, it's not just, Lycoming County Water and Sewer. You spend, I can't even tell you how many times I see you in meetings in the evenings and in weekends. And, yeah, you definitely are a very dedicated
Yeah, they're
person.
blessed to have you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we think about it, it's not just an investment in infrastructure, it's an investment in relationships.
Great, thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Okay, motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, we'll see you back here on the 28th for the reappointment of two
Correct.
of your board members.
I'll continue to work with Maya on the agreement and we'll get that taken care of.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 8.12, a vote to approve and adopt the 2024 budget. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to table that to the 28th meeting.
I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have things we need to continue to work on.
You might as well just continue with 8:13.
Okay. Motion to table 8:13, the following resolution for 2024, resolution 2327, 2024 budget, 23 through 28, the 5-year capital plan, 23 through 29, the ratio for real estate tax assessment, and 2030, resolution 2023-30, the real estate tax rate. I asked for these resolutions to be tabled and put on our 12/28 agenda.
I'll second.
Motion? Motion?
I'll make-
Second?
I'll make- oh, okay, I'm sorry.
All in favor, say aye. Table action item 8.12 and 8.13 as presented.
So wait a second, who made the motion to table the budget 8.12?
He did. And
You did, and I
Yeah.
seconded it. I made the motion to table the resolutions. Okay.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it'll be tabled until 12/28.
I am the secretary, so I'm taking notes. You didn't know that? For 8 years I've been the secretary. You thought I was just over here like
When I walk in the office, I see that says my name.
secretary.
Yeah.
course, he has 32 filing cabinets.
All right, getting on to some
That's-
more
that's the
action,
truth.
items, 8.14 through 8.17, Maya.
Good morning.
Good
Or is it, oh no,
Afternoon.
afternoon now, sorry.
We're still ahead of the, still ahead of the school bell.
Yeah. My first item is vote to approve print services agreement with Infocon. This is just our annual agreement that we have for the treasurer's office.
Okay, motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
The next item, vote to approve the software maintenance agreement with Infocon. Again, this is for the treasurer's office and is our annual contract we have for the tax bill printing.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next item, 8.16, vote to approve the list of agreements approved by the Director of Administration for the month of November, and we had 5.
Okay, motion?
I will move to approve.
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the last item I have, 8.17, vote to approve an intergovernmental agreement with the Sheriff's Office and the Court of Common Pleas for domestic relations section. This is just our annual agreement we do to help offset some of the costs provided by the Sheriff's Office to the Domestic Relations Office. We get reimbursed for those services.
Yep. Motion?
I'll move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
All right, thank you.
Maya?
8.18 through 8.23, Jason?
Good morning, Commissioners. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening, Commissioners. Commissioners, for your approval, starting with 8.18. This is a approved change order number 2 with R&L Development, the amount of $53,785. This is for the utility project we've been working on. We have found what we call a knockout in the leachate and gas collection system along the field. It's another opportunity with knockouts are basically a big HD pipe that the gas comes in and the liquids drop out. And it's urgent that we get that out of the system before it goes into the gas skid.
Okay, and this is an item that's budgeted for 2023.
Yes, this is through the closure. This is all part of the closure projects that we're doing.
Motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
Commissioners, 8.19 is a vote to approve the master power purchase and sale agreement, letter number 6. This is a short-term, month-by-month contract that we are setting up with NextAir. NextAir is the new company, which was EPP, thank you, sir. That they are the company that owns our cogeneration facility. So it's just, in the absence of the 10-year contract with them and the Federal Bureau of Prisons, we needed to get something in place. So,
Okay, motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
uh, 8.2, Commissioners, vote to approve purchase of stem valve from Corn, Maine in the amount of $25,902.50. We are getting 3 valves and 4 stems that go. These valves are used in our gas yard back in the flare yard. They are, the existing ones are about 13 years old, so we need to replace them. And the company is called Core in Maine.
The amount is $25,902.50. It's a 2023 budgeted item.
Yes.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
8.21, Commissioners, this is the repair of the our old compactor 836H. The transmission and torque converter in the machine had a catastrophic failure, to say the least. And this is for Cleveland Brothers repairing it in the amount of $73,788.45.
Okay, 2023 budgeted item.
Yes, under
Motion?
maintenance repairs.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
8.22, Commissioners, this is a capital purchase that started a year ago. This is approved the purchase of an aerial device with VersaLift model and $149,814. This is an entire truck box with a lift, with a man lift, with air compressor and the works. We've just received the truck that's been ordered for 12 months. We received it, now we're able to order the box for it, and that will be another 12 months. So this will turn into a 2-year project. So it is used in our maintenance department.
And motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
And lastly, Commissioners, is 8.23, Amendment Number 2, Agreement with Green Chip. So this is I'll call it a big ticket item. This is important. This will be brought forth in front of the board as an informational item over the next couple months. This amendment is going to allow RMS to start collecting do battery recycling for the public and residential only. This is not a commercial battery recycling program. It's not in place yet. The amendment is simply an agreement with us and Green Chip, but then we will be starting to put forth infrastructure at our facility and information to get out, to educate the public on the hazards of battery collecting in your house, the hazards of lithium batteries, how to put tape over the leads, the positive leads, try to minimize the fire hazards. I just was in communication this week with one of the chiefs of Williamsport Bureau. They're having some requests. People are calling them for information. So needless to say, I don't see any lithium batteries going away. And currently there is no manufacturing responsibility out there. Nobody wants to step up and help educate the public, so we have to start doing it. And there is a cost to this program. The first year, I think we're gonna look at it and we will be footing the bill, budgeting out for ourselves. But again, it's only for residential. And then I'll be coming forth to you for the 2025 budget to let you know how we want to move the program forward. But we have to have something in place for the public, for battery recycling.
And the result of batteries going to the landfill has resulted in numerous fires, correct?
Yes, sir, especially in the recycling center. Proven, got pictures, seen bales smoking, had fires in the plastic pit where we have the plastic getting ready to go get sorted. Yes, it is a real problem.
We were just contacted by one of the firefighters, and we're gonna have it on the agenda on 12/28 to vote for training for the firefighters regarding lithium batteries and how to properly put out those fires.
Yeah, and that was part of the discussion I had with, when we first started in our fire service learning about electric vehicles, it was more about where to cut and things like this. It wasn't so much as fire suppression, because a lithium fire is very intense.
Yeah.
So there is just a lot that needs to be put forth. I've already mentioned to you, the Board of Commissioners, about how important New York City and the fire department has deemed it and the fatalities they're seeing. So it's here. There's not hard to see Teslas and electric scooters.
So tune into that meeting as we vote on that issue.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Tell the public where they may have lithium batteries.
Oh.
The public may not even realize they have them.
Any cordless device like a DeWalt, Milwaukee, any drill, anything that you're plugging in to charge. I mean, I'm sitting here carrying my phone in my back pocket. That's probably lithium. Your flat batteries, the ones that are going in some of your hearing aids, they're just scooters, bicycles.
They're all over.
They're all over, sir. It's amazing, actually.
Yeah, and since I'm in the fire restoration business, it's amazing, when you're charging your phone or your iPad, don't charge them underneath your countertop, underneath your cabinets, because they catch on fire. Get them out in the open. If you have granite, put them out in the open, so, you can reduce the chance of your house catching on fire.
And don't leave them plugged in overnight.
No.
People who leave them plugged in. So listen, it goes without saying, but there's only this meeting and one more. All of these costs are coming out of the revenue of the landfill. They are not coming out of tax dollars. We are thrilled. We are thrilled to be able.
Don't worry, we have this covered we're having one of those those things that
ticket
tape.
Yep.
So
thank you. Much appreciated.
He'll be going across and it'll be quoted his quote in the future. So.
I appreciate the support from all three. I really would like to take a quick second and give a shout out to our recycling coordinator, Lauren Strasser, Kristen Perez, our recycling manager down at the facility, and the other staff, because they really were seeing this come in. Donnie Hassenplug, our customer rep, who's working with customers asking these questions. This is a big deal. And Lauren and them come to me and they said, hey, this needs our attention and we need to make something happen. And I really give a shout out to my team because they've had meetings aside. They're figuring out how to contain it, because as we collect these, then the burden is on us to try to get them then transported to Green Chip and them. So it's a big deal, and I really appreciate the work my team's put into this.
Well, we appreciate what they did, because here they took the initiative. I mean, they could have just, we got a fire, we got a fire, we got a fire. The point is you have to educate the public.
Yes.
Absolutely. A motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioners. 1.24 and 2.5 and 2.6, Shannon.
Maureen Shannon,
Good morning, Commissioners. 2.4 is the work order number 6 to the Master Service Agreement with WSP, who is our levee engineer. This is for the redesign of the South Williamsport relief wells. We've discussed this in the past. We had the issues with not many contractors were interested in the relief well project, and those who were bidding them at a considerably higher cost estimate than what was expected. Some of that is due to the fact that there are too many unknowns with certain parts of the relief wells. One in South Williamsport is the stormwater collection system underneath the relief wells. There's not enough information to be able to accurately determine future issues with that during the relief well drilling and replacement. So the Army Corps finally agreed that it would be much better to redesign them. So Williamsport had a bid out and has hired WSP to redesign their side of the relief wells, and this is to redesign the relief wells for South Williamsport.
okay.
Where's the money coming for this, Shannon?
Right now, this money would be coming from ARPA, probably. It's either Act 13 or ARPA.
All right, a motion?
I'll move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 8.25.
Okay. For the cross pipes bid that we received today, we need to hire an inspection engineer. And this is to approve the resident project representative from Greenman Peterson GPI for the Williamsport area levee rehabilitation cross pipes in the amount of $170,416.20. This is to make sure that they would be on site while the rehabilitation relining of the cross pipes is occurring, and they would be making sure that everything is being done properly to the specs. And if they come across any issues, they would be working with the design engineer to make sure that we could address those issues.
Motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Questions?
What do you think the time frame is to have them replaced? All of them replaced?
Once we get the relining done, I believe there's 41 that would be relined. We're not replacing any of
Right.
them. If we come across one that actually, since the previous inspection, needs to be replaced rather than relined, it would drop off our bid. So these are relining. If we can average 1 to 2 a week, it's roughly a 6 to 9 month process. So this is a curable relining product. So it's a fairly quick process. And of course, we have to review the bid that we received. It was considerably higher than we expected. And I already have a text message from the engineer. So as soon as we get that bid downloaded, we will send that off to them for them to look at and see what the reasoning is behind the excess, well, we believe excessive cost.
Motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'm sorry, we did.
We have.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. And lastly, 8.26.
Yeah, I'm gonna fill in for Mark, I told him he didn't have to stay. It was a little long. So this is just an amendment to our agreement with Kleinfelder, who was previously known as Century Engineer. They're the engineering company that does the required engineering reviews for subdivision land development. So this is just to extend the contract into next year. To the end of this year, we're also doing a contract extension to the end of next year with some revised costs. This is just to get them through the end of this year.
And then we'll be doing an extension till the end of next year, and we'll be rebidding this out, probably August, September of next year.
A motion?
I move to approve.
A second.
All fair side?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Commissioner Conley.
Real briefly, I have two things. This past Monday and Tuesday, Shannon, if you want to stick around just for a second. Shannon and Director McDermott, myself, traveled to Washington DC to speak with our Senators Fetterman and Casey's office, and along with their representatives, Musser and G.T. Thompson. And we also met with our lobby, our airport lobbyist for the airport over lunchtime. It was a very productive day. We spoke about the levy system, updated them on several issues, rising cost and the challenges that we've been experiencing, and they're all on board and helping us. They have been very active with their assistance. We spoke about the commercial airline service to the airport. It was refreshing to hear that Congressman Musser's been in about 11 to 12 meetings regarding the airport. Is actively involved in that. Has actually assigned one of his staff members specifically just to focus on the airport, and so that was very encouraging to hear also. And they're down there working hard to get that recertification for our levy and return commercial airline service to Lycoming County. They feel it's critical. They continue to emphasize this to their colleagues that rural Pennsylvania cannot be ignored, and these two pressing issues have to be addressed and solved. We also spoke about some other issues regarding the land conversion over at White Deer Golf Course, and contacting the National Park Service at the appropriate time to get that process completed so that we can move forward on that also. And then we also talked about the public safety building up in Jersey Shore, and future progress on that. So, among other issues, can you think of anything else, Director, that we talked about? Shannon? It was a very productive day. They were very pleased to see that we drove to Washington to address these issues, and we'll continue to work with them moving forward. The other issue is this Saturday is Wreaths Across America, which is very important to recognize those veterans that have passed on as we lay wreaths at their grave sites, and there's numerous ones around the county, and we look forward to participating in that on Saturday morning, remembering those heroes of the past, and being with some of those family members as they remember their family. That's all I have. Anything? You all talked out? Anything? Okay, we've got the public. Ask you to please keep your comments brief in the county issues, and then we'll go on to online comments after the public and person. Mr. Adams.
Tom Adams, Williamsport. I think we don't have fear of God in our system of government. This is a countrywide thing, and it does affect the county. This is something the Securities and Exchange Commission is considering pushing or allowing for the beginning of the trades for natural assets companies. And they'll take control of property and land rights, and no homeowner or any landowner will have rights to the resources that are on those properties, and they'll be able to control anything you do on that property, even farming or anything. And so it's something that's tying the public and government together, and these companies, and it's something for people to really be aware of. Contact the SEC or any of the state reps and even federal reps, and they really need to be aware not to allow this to go through. And so, we're at that time, where this stuff is just going to continue to be pushed.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Hearing none, we'll go to online.
All right, from Wilbo IRL, Lycoming College is violating my First Amendment rights. I'm not sure what this stands for, so I'll just read it out. SHTX4RXM. From William Fenderson, Scott, as you were talking about, this is right. The senior cannot handle any raise in taxes. This not the right time. William Fenderson, you have to look at nonprofit. That is the key to the problem. All you have to do is look around the state and you will see you can do this. William Fenderson, the lottery fund for the tax rebate is called the PA 1000, and then William Fenderson again. Next year there will be a lot of changes to the PA 1000. Just so people know, it go from 35,000 to 45,000, so more people can be in the system for the rebate.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We will not have a meeting next week. We will have our last meeting of the year on Thursday, December 28th, 2023, unless there's a special one that will be scheduled. This time we don't anticipate one, but there may be. But our next meeting will be Thursday, December 28th, 2023. At that time, we'll be voting on some important issues. And I believe at that time we may be voting on reassessment, if my colleagues would like to add it to the agenda. We'll have that discussion about whether it will be added to the agenda. And we will also, in the meantime, like to hear from the public regarding our terrace and regarding the reassessment. It's important because these are your dollars, and we want to make sure that we hear from you if you want to reach out to us. So we'll complete our agenda. Have a very Merry Christmas to those, and we'll see you on the 28th.
Okay. What did we all miss here?
Yeah.
Oh, Jason.
Not very festive.
Did they,